Author and adventurer Paul Theroux has enjoyed a prolific career writing books and traveling the world. He is widely regarded as one of modern literature's most respected chroniclers of the expatriate experience. He has received equal recognition for his travel book series, which began with his enormously popular The Great Railway Bazaar. His current work, Pillars of Hercules, takes his readers along the Mediterranean coast, and I am pleased to have him here to share that journey that he took them on. It is called, subtitle, A Grand Tour of the Mediterranean. We don't have a welcome, first of all, Paul.
Nice to see you, John.
But the two pillars are Morocco and Malta. What's it?
Gibraltar.
Gibraltar
on the north.
The Rock of Gibraltar and
Ceuta in Morocco. Yeah. Well, Ceuta is actually Spanish, but and you know Gibraltar is English, but Hercules put them there. Or one of the labors of Hercules, he was capturing the cattle, and he passed by and he put them there. Yeah. One on the top, one on the bottom.
I know you thought about this too, because whenever you say, I'm going to take a tour of the Mediterranean, everybody says, what else is there to say about the Mediterranean?
Or they say, oh, that sounds pretty soft. That sounds pretty soft.
Yeah, right.
In fact, someone was saying that to me this morning.
Like tough duty there.
That's right. Someone even used that phrase, tough duty, as though the Mediterranean was just lotus eating in the south of France. But it's not lotus eating, at least if you're me. There's a war in Croatia. Yeah. Albania is falling apart. It's in a state of anarchy. There's no infrastructure. Syria has a Mediterranean coast. Turkey does. Israel does. Egypt does. 40,000 people have been killed, murdered in Algeria. Yeah. That's the Mediterranean. The whole thing is the Mediterranean. Did
you run into the Bosnian War in any way?
Yeah, Bosnia has there's a little bit of Bosnia on the coast. It goes up to Mostar. Yeah. And so I went to, one of the curious things about traveling in the Mediterranean is things are near each other. You know, Jordan's near Israel, Syria's near Israel,
right. Yes, that's right.
and Italy is very near Slovenia and Croatia. So it's an overnight trip on a ferry from Italy to Albania or Italy to Croatia. And I went through Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, and saw a lot of bullet holes. No war. I could hear, artillery, but I'm not in the. I'm risk averse.
You're not a war correspondent.
I'm risk averse. Yeah. I mean, I was in Vietnam. But as a journalist, but I was a young man then, and I value my life.
Why do you do this? I mean, why do you go on these journeys and write books about it?
Partly to sing for my supper. I really like traveling, and these are expensive trips to make. Also, I think I really don't like the travel books that other people write. I think that this is my book. I mean, I should say...
this is your Mediterranean.
This is my Mediterranean. In a way, last time I was talking to you, I was writing about the Pacific. Right. That was my Pacific. Every travel book is different. Every person's version of it. You know, the tree seen by the wise man is different from the tree seen by the fool.
And what do you hope to bring to it? I mean, what do you want to bring to the Mediterranean? Because you don't just stay in the luxury places. You obviously stay at a whole variety of levels of comfort.
Usually pretty crummy places.
Yeah.
Except in this case, I was on a ship called the Seaborne Spirit for a while, for a couple of weeks. That was very luxurious. And the hardest thing to write about on this earth is luxury, pleasure. Happiness is very hard to write about. Misery is really where it's at.
Because it's more graphic?
Not because it's more graphic. It's really more like people's lives. It's more like real life. I mean, in the Mediterranean, people are taking their kids to school, paying, their electric bill, and getting their driver's license and getting into car crashes and harvesting olives. But that's quite different from eating spaghetti and going to the opera. And I read a book called Christ Stopped at Eboli. I'd always wanted to go to the village where that took place, which is Aliano in southern Italy. A lot of my Mediterranean travel, and the reason for the book, in a sense, is I've read so many books with Mediterranean settings. Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Tolstoy. A bit of Anna Karenina is set in Italy. Naguib Mahfouz, Nobel Prize winner. Just before I met him, someone stabbed him in the neck. Sheikh Omar put a fatwa out on. They said, kill this man. So someone stabbed him. I had a choice when I went to Egypt to go see the pyramids and the Sphinx, or go to the intensive care ward and see Naguib Mahfouz. Well, there's no question. I went to the intensive care ward. We had a nice little chat about life, literature, and getting stabbed. He said, I don't hate them.
Who's the most interesting person you met on this trip?
He was, perhaps. But then there's lots of people. I mean, it's not so much someone that I met, but in Syria, Assad's son was killed. He was martyred by going 140 miles an hour trying to catch a plane at Damascus Airport.
Yeah.
So he martyred himself against the telephone pole. I found that so it wasn't so much that he's someone I met, but that situation was weird and interesting because there are pictures of him all over. The cult of Basel has started. That sort of thing. I met Paul Bowles.
It was devastating for Hafez al-Assad.
Yes, he was a favorite.
Or?
Yeah. He was next in line. It's very dynastic. He's very dynastic, and his idea was, he was going to, and it is, but it's a weird sort of cult of death that going on in Syria, and that has a Mediterranean coast which is ancient. There were crusaders there. Well, you can go to crusader castles or look at the cult of Basel. As I said, I saw Paul Bowles was interesting. Guy Mahfouz was interesting. Lots of people that I met were interesting, but the situations I met even more so. The evil eye, for example, which I was looking for things that unite the Mediterranean. Everyone in the Mediterranean believes in the evil eye, that if you say, what a lovely child, and you don't say, God bless it, what a lovely child, you're putting a curse on the child. So people do that. They make the cornuto at you, under the table usually, to prevent it. You find the evil eye in Syria, in Greece, in Turkey, in Italy, in Spain, all over. I think that's amazing. So it's sort of the situation in the Mediterranean. So I could have sat around drinking wine, I suppose, eating spaghetti, but I was staying in crummy hotels.
Someone said about you, this was, I think a reviewer said that you have Graham Greene's pessimism, Joseph Conrad's menacing atmosphere, and Henry James's exile's eyes.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose so, and someone's, iron stomach, because, so far. But that's a very kind thing to say, to have all those qualities. But I think every writer is doing his own thing. I mean, it's very hard to compare a writer's book, or even, say, a travel book. Someone said, well, I like this book about the Mediterranean. Sometimes people say it to me. I wrote a book about China. You were talking to Mort Zuckerman about China. My China isn't his China. He was talking to
the president.
The president, big, as the Chinese have, very big potatoes, very big people.
But that was a different journalistic.
Absolutely, but
journey.
You get a different China. You talk to people who sell noodles on the street, or people who are banging on the, making roads. You get a different version. That's my version, not being a millionaire, multimillionaire.
How do you choose where you go and how you travel? I mean, you sort of said no planes on this. That was the one condition you set.
Yeah, I wanted to stay on the ground.
No planes here. So how do you choose where you stay? And who? Do you just wander, or is it prearranged to the day?
I wander aimlessly and grin like a dog most of the time. Then I also...
And alone?
Yeah, because it's a long day if you're traveling all day and then making notes. I usually choose a place which has a built-in itinerary. For example, the coast of the Mediterranean is perfect. When I went to China, I said I wanted to take every train in China. I just want to go everywhere in China that you can go, but on a train. So I have been on every railway in China. In the Pacific, I wanted to go to every little archipelago and paddle I had a little kayak. I was paddling around. So it's a place, but there's a little formula to it. I suppose in choosing a place that in which the itinerary is kind of built in. You got to do it. I wanted to go to every country in the Mediterranean. I wanted to go along all the coastline. Because I had this theory that, in a sense, Syria, Israel, and Turkey are more similar on the coast than they are in the hinterland. And it's true. I mean, the Mediterranean coast, one country's coast, is more similar to the hinterland of it.
Suppose when you get back, and while you're writing, the most important person in your life comes to you and says, take me back to one place. Where would you take them?
Unfortunately, it wouldn't be the place that I found the most interesting. I mean, if I could go back to a place, I would go back to the most dismal, miserable, godforsaken part of Albania that I saw, and just see what it was like. I mean, I wouldn't want to wish that on anyone.
Where they had all the bomb shelters.
Yeah, you know about the bomb shelters. They look like little igloos. There were 600,000 in the country. Everyone had his own personal family bomb shelter. So I would do that. But then if someone said...
Why?
Because, to me, that it's very revealing of a situation, of something that will change. Sometime that will pass away. You can always go to the Roman Forum. You can always go to Venice. You can always go to a bullfight in Malaga or somewhere. But that will change. Albania will change. In the past, I don't know, 10 years, Albania has gone from being an amazingly horrible totalitarian dictatorship to a country which really should have about 6,000 Peace Corps volunteers, or, you know, maybe a very big grant from some government. So I would take a person to a place that was really horrible and miserable and say, look at this, because you will never see it again. You've never seen anything like this, but you can always have a pizza, you know.
Did you make any mistakes in this book? I mean, do you get it wrong sometimes?
I don't think so, because I would say,
because you're talking about distances and places,
perverse, I suppose, sense of humor, or
I mean, you're not a geographer, and you're not
definitely not. No.
So just sometimes when you can't really,
getting things wrong. Some people write in and they say, "Oh, you got this place wrong," or this name is misspelled wrong. But it doesn't really matter. That's just a detail. That's like Keats saying that Cortez was, got the ocean wrong.
Your brother still lives in Washington, where he's...
I have a brother in Washington, and I'm
is he a lawyer, or what is he?
Yes, he's a very big China expert. I have 4 brothers, though, all of them overachievers of one kind or another.
And you live in Massachusetts and in Hawaii.
Yes, yeah. I live in Hawaii during the winter.
I assume that the novels which you write also inform the travel books in a way.
Very much so, and I think that a novel has to have a strong sense of place. That's why I like Elmore Leonard. There's a very strong sense of place there. Hemingway has it. Fitzgerald has it. A book that's great, has a lot of landscape in it, is like a travel book. I mean, look at Faulkner. How much of the South you get from Faulkner. And William Styron, I mean, one of our great novelists, has written a great Mediterranean book called Set This House on Fire, set in Amalfi. So it's that kind of thing. I think my novels, for better or worse, have landscape in them. I don't know how well I render it.
You have a great eye for detail of architecture, too, and place.
Well, thank you very much.
Where is this?
That's near Positano, and it's a lovely part of Italy. Lovely part of
Best meal you had while you were there? Not in any particular place, but on this trip.
Best meal? This is a real tough one. Probably on a ship called the Seaborne Spirit, which I mentioned earlier. But most memorable meal, definitely on a Turkish freighter, where I was with 200 Turkish passengers, just eating the way Turks eat all the time, and everyone's being nice to each other. And I thought, this is amazing. I'm in the bosom of a Turkish family, and I stayed there for 18 days.
Paul Theroux, The Pillars of Hercules, a grand tour of the Mediterranean. Thank you very much.